Good afternoon, attendees and panelists. My name is Shamika Leacock with the James Beard Foundation. I serve as the Associate Director of the JBF Institute here. I'd like to welcome you all to our Queer All Year webinar series in collaboration with the Queer Food Foundation. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us for today's discussion with our vegan chefs. They include Dustin Harder, both a chef, educator, and cookbook author, Meagan Benz from Crust Vegan Bakery, Marino Benedetto from Dawg, and moderated today by chef and owner of Plantatude, Jae Camino. Just a little bit of information about the James Beard Foundation before we proceed. The James Beard Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to lead chefs and the broader culinary industry towards a new standard of excellence. If you're interested in learning about all of our Queer All Year series, I invite you to visit our website at jamesbeard.org. If you're also interested in our other programs, events, and initiatives, you can find that information at the website as well as Platform by JBF. Today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available both on the QFF, Queer Food Foundation website, along with our website, and featured in our resource center. Usually I kick it off to the co-founder and executive director of the Queer Food Foundation, Vanessa Parrish, and she's joining us today. I think what Vanessa would like you to know is that this series, Queer All Year, is not just done in honor of Pride Month. By the way, happy Pride Month. Happy belated Juneteenth, and also Caribbean American Heritage Month. But this series is not just about celebrating pride and the culinary community, but really acknowledging the contributions of the culinary professionals you're going to hear from today all throughout the year. So this series today, or this webinar today, is a part of a 6-part series that we offer throughout the year. And I invite you to check out some of the other sessions that we've recorded, in addition to the other collaborations we've had in the past, such as the Equity and Hospitality series. But I also just want to commend Vanessa, the Queer Food Foundation, on all of the work that they do throughout the year across the country. So I'm going to go ahead and kick things off and turn it over to today's moderator and QFF board advisor, Jae Camino.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jae Camino. I am a plant-based chef and owner of Plantatude, a company that provides plant-based consulting services to food manufacturers and restaurants. I'm also an advisory board member with the Queer Food Foundation. I'm very excited to chat with our 3 panelists today. And again, we have Dustin Harder, owner of culinary studio Smash Food Lab in Chicago. Dustin is also the host and creator of the original vegan travel culinary series, The Vegan Roadie, and weekly podcast, Keep On Cooking. He also authored several cookbooks called Simply Vegan, Epic Vegan, and Epic Vegan Quick and Easy. Next up, we have Marino Benedetto, founder of Dawg, a queer vegan hot dog and comfort food business known for reimagining classics with whole plant-based ingredients. Lastly, we also have Meagan Benz, owner of Crust, a made-from-scratch vegan bakery in Philadelphia. Crust was founded in 2015 with a commitment to animal rights, reduced environmental impact, social justice, and community support. And I'd just like to start out by doing a quick opening round, just to hear from our panelists. Can you share where in the world you are today and what food is catching your eye this week? And if we can start with Meagan.
Hi, I'm Meagan, owner and founder of Crust. I am in Philadelphia, and this week, what has caught my eye is fig leaf oil. I had never heard of this before, and I saw another bakery owner, making fig leaf oil by like blanching, I think, the leaves and then like emulsifying them with an oil and straining them. And now I really want to make it with some of my fig trees.
That is amazing. I'd like to try that sometime. I've never heard of it before.
Me either. I'm curious.
Yeah. Marino, how about you?
Hey, what's up? I'm in Kingston, New York, and Basically, this week we're in a heat wave here, so really the main food that's caught my eye is seeded watermelon, which is actually hard to find. Seeded watermelon with like fresh lime and then coconut water. That's kind of what I've been focusing on this week.
It sounds really, really refreshing.
Yeah.
And Dustin, how about you?
Hey, great to be here. My name's Dustin. I'm in Chicago. And I recently discovered crushed crushed red pepper, of course, but like smoked crushed red pepper flakes. And now I can't stop using those. I have to remind myself like, oh, the regular crushed pepper flakes exist as well, but I love them. Now I want to put the smoked crushed red pepper flakes on everything.
Oh, I love that. Anything smoked, especially during the summer, is like amazing. So
A little
yeah.
bit of that on like some fruit, like pineapple, mango. Oh, it's so good.
Yes, I love that. Okay. So one of the questions I always get from people is, what led you to becoming a plant-based chef? And I'd like to hear a little bit about what, if anything, was a catalyst for each of you that led you to the road you're on now as a vegan chef. And if we can start with Dustin.
Sure, yeah. So this was back in I've been vegan since 2009, and when I originally went vegan, I was also working on a Broadway show at the time, and there were a few of us in the show who would get together once a month and we would do a vegan potluck. And we all kind of were like, okay, we're the weirdos. Here we are. Let's gather. What are we eating? Let's talk about the dishes. And then, over time, it just became a way that I saw to make people happy and bring joy into the world through food. And it gradually progressed into culinary school and then becoming a chef and all of those things. But the mission remains the same all through that, to always sort of create joy with food. So that's really the basis of it for me, truly.
Oh, I love that. Meagan, how about you?
So I also went vegan in 2009. I was vegetarian for a long time before that, but went vegan in the South, and there just wasn't. I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and then Chapel Hill. And in Greensboro, we didn't even have a Whole Foods at the time. So it was just hard to find vegan food to eat. And I love sugar. I love pastries. I was like raised on Pop-Tarts and toaster strudels and all that kind of stuff. So it really was first a means to an end for myself. And then I realized that I loved baking, and I loved that I could make vegan food that was just good food, not like, oh, it's good for being vegan, but it's just good in general. And I could share that with people who are vegan and not vegan and see that it was really like filling a void that we had in North Carolina. And then, moved to Philly with the dream of opening a bakery and actually like seeing it continue to grow in a place where there would maybe be more demand for it. But for me, it's just always been about, how do I make good food that didn't involve suffering of any kind, that the best I can, figure out like myself. So not just animal suffering, but like, how do I also make sure I'm like tracing my supply chain back to like where a food product that I'm using comes from? Because for me, it's not just about the animals, it's about the planet, and it's about the people who are harvesting the food and growing the food as well. So how do I continue to grow and share food that is focused on harm reduction, basically?
Very inspiring, yes. Marino, how about you?
Yeah, so I became vegan in I think the year 2000 around when I was in college, got a pamphlet about, I was vegetarian since I was 12, so I always kind of had to learn how to be creative in the kitchen because there was no, in the 90s, there was like nothing at that time. And so I was just like, at that time I was using like vacuum sealed tofu and like veggies and just making stir fry. And then college, there was a little bit more stuff going on. And then there was like some cookbooks that came out, like How It All Began. Rest in peace, Sarah Kramer. Very influential book in my early vegan stuff. And that's kind of where I got into making comfort foods and like nostalgic foods. And then just always worked in restaurants as a chef, and then was working at a drop-in center with kids, and then trying to get them to eat more vegan. And so I was like just constantly recreating, like classics, nostalgic foods, burgers, hot dogs, mac and cheese, tacos. and just saw how those kind of comfort foods could be like a way in to people who may be nervous to try vegan food, and then kind of just developed the idea for Dawg after that, and then also like realizing what was the most unhealthiest food I could recreate, and it was like, oh, the hot dog. And then in New York, it was like a New York thing, hot dogs. So and developed, a hot dog made of actual plants. So yeah. And then just kept making the menu more and more developed after that, so.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I feel like the common theme there is pretty much like survival, trying to, recreate things so that you can eat it, because there's limited choices out there, and especially in some cities with vegan food. So I totally get that. So what are some misconceptions that you guys have experienced from others when it comes to vegan cuisine, and how do you address them with your audience or your potential customers? And if you can start with Meagan this time.
So for us, I think a big, the classic misconception is that the food will be inherently less good because it doesn't have all the good stuff like butter and eggs and dairy. Because to a lot of people who aren't vegan, that's what they think makes a pastry delicious. And so that has been really exciting when we do events where we are giving out free samples or something, to just like give someone and be like, what is the cost of you trying something for free? If you still don't like it, then just don't finish it. Like, and then to see that it really turns people around. Like, I've had someone like take the cookie out the door, go down the street, and come back and be like, it was actually good. And like, yeah, we're in the business of just like making good food, not good for being vegan. So I think that's a big one. I think also people assume that you have to use a whole bunch of soy or a whole bunch of nuts to make products vegan. And we really focus on how can we make something that's really allergen friendly for people too. So we try to make things that are nut free, soy free, sometimes gluten free as well, so that we're able to really make our product accessible to even more people. Because with oat milk being so popular, that's often a really great replacement instead of like almond milk or soy milk. And sometimes is also like the more sustainable option as well. So yeah, just opening people's eyes to that there are so many different substitutions, and sometimes you don't even need the substitution. You don't even need an egg to make a good brownie. So educating our customers about like what the food's actually made from has been, I think, really interesting for our customer base to learn about as well.
And Dustin, how about you?
I agree with Meagan. I mean, the misconception is always that it's not going to taste good. It doesn't have all this. It doesn't have all that. And ultimately, it's like we are just trying to deliver delicious food. Like at the end of the day, we want to have delicious food just like the rest of the world, and we want the rest of the world to have delicious food, right? And then it just so happens to be vegan. It just so happens to be compassionate. It just so happens to be better for the environment. It just so happens in a lot of cases to be better for your health, But first and foremost, it has to be delicious. So that misconception is always wild to me. And then I'm like, how long do we have on this webinar, right? Because the misconception of protein, nutrients, all those things, those all get played into it. But there is an answer for all of it. It all comes from plants in the first place, ultimately. So, those misconceptions just keep going and going. But at the end of the day, delicious food is how we get it,
It's true. Marino?
Yes, I agree. Obviously, most people are like, it's not going to taste good. Obviously, texture as well is a big one people are scared of, which is why I love mushrooms, because they really kind of smash that one down. But yeah, like also the just showing them that you could eat healthy as well. I think a lot of people have been oversaturated with I'm glad they exist, but like, very processed vegan meats and vegan things. And I like to show them that you can actually have this like comfort food, but actually from plants, like using seeds, veggies, mushrooms. I don't have to use like, gluten, soy, overly processed oils that you typically will find in more of like the fast food types of things. And so, yeah, we actually do use whole foods here. So I really enjoy showing them that.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's so much misinformation, especially around social media today. And I guess educating people is, the first and foremost way to, address a lot of the misconceptions about vegan food. So you guys are doing a great job with that, apparently. So yeah, um, there are so many different intersections within the food industry, and you're all vegan chefs, but at the same time, you're also part of the queer community. How does queerness show up in your line of work, if at all? And have you faced any unique challenges or opportunities as a queer person in the culinary industry? And Marino, you can go first.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think in and of itself, being queer is like kind of deviating from the norm, kind of like going against, the mainstream typical stuff. And so I think being a vegan is first and foremost queer in and of itself, kind of in some ways, mainly because you're kind of going against the grain, you're going against what typically has been laid out for you as a diet or whatever. And then I think in terms of just my business, the way I've run it is very queer. In the sense that I'm not following a set script. I kind of go where my passion goes. If my passion's not there, I don't follow it. Even if it's going to make me more famous or more money, I'm going to follow the passion, always the creativity, just to keep going, to avoid burnout and to be happy and to keep putting that back into the food. So I think in some ways that's sort of queer because I'm not like concerned with following a standard to business or how it's typically done. Which is why I have a very flexible business model with Dawg. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dustin, how about you?
Yeah, the challenges in the food industry for me, whenever I've worked in a restaurant, I'm always sort of bombarded by the intense cis male energy, straight male energy that is coming through in the kitchen. And I'm terrified. I'm terrified of doing something wrong. I'm terrified of getting yelled at. And that has been a big challenge for me. So I have sought out spaces where I have been welcomed with open arms and I don't have that fear. And that comes from being a queer child, right? Being always feeling like something was wrong with me or that I was doing something wrong because I was different than others around me. And so I've always had that challenge for myself in a restaurant setting. So when I do find a setting where I do feel welcome and people are embracing me for all of the bits and pieces that I am, I feel very happy to find that inclusivity, which ties into how queerness is in my vegan food. I feel that, so many people will go, oh, well, being vegan, that's so exclusive. And I think the opposite of it, actually. I think being vegan is quite inclusive because we are creating a space for everyone at the table. People who eat meat can eat the vegetables. If you don't eat meat, you're not going to show up at a table where someone's making a bunch of meat and be like, oh yeah, I'll just nibble on that tonight only. That's fine. Instead, if it's a plant-based meal, ultimately everyone's welcome at that table. There's something they can eat usually. And so I think that's my goal is to create an inclusive space. I'm so fortunate now. I just the share kitchen that I just took out is at a queer owned space. For the first time in my life, I'm in a restaurant setting where I feel so totally welcome. And there is a difference in how I walk in the door every day, So there is some alignment with that I'm very, very grateful for.
Great. Meagan, how about you?
I just want to say I think that's awesome that you, Dustin, now have a space where you feel that because it's something we deserve to feel no matter where we are, but it is so in this industry, it's hard to find. So where it comes into play at Crust is that since I feel so grateful that after 10 years of doing this, we've really gained a reputation locally for being a very queer business. And I really strive to make the kitchen and the front of house, the space we've created for our staff, to be a space that's very inclusive. And I'm proud to say that over half of our staff are queer identifying and they feel a appreciated and respected at work and seen for who they are. Their pronouns are correct when people address them. And that, like, I feel like I live in a bubble when I'm at Crust a little bit, where I feel so grateful for this space we've created, and I forget sometimes how bad it was working in other kitchens where I was the only queer person, and it was uncomfortable. And being a woman, like as a pastry chef, just being disrespected by male hierarchy of chefs. And yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for the team that I have, and that they also want to be on this journey with me at Crust. We call it Crust Vegan Gakery sometimes because it just fits that we're just a really gay place to be. And hearing the stories from my staff of times in other jobs where they were just consistently misgendered or like tokenized. It's just unfortunate, and the bar is really, really low, but I am happy to be continuing to grow this mission within Crust and hopefully see it continue to grow elsewhere too, because we desperately need it.
Oh, that's amazing. So to tie into that, do you guys think the culinary world in general is becoming more inclusive of both plant-based diets and diverse voices, or is there a lot of work that still needs to be done, in your opinion? And Dustin, if you can start us off.
I mean, I think there's always going to be work that has to be done. I think that's just the nature of the world, right? We take steps forward and there's always steps backwards in that case, in regards to that. But I do think in some cases there's growth, obviously, you know, and when you look at plant-based offerings, it's interesting in a world, I think all of us on this call can remember this time. There was this sweet spot between like 2015, 2018 or so, where like we were creating, we were putting things in the world, hoping that veganism became just more of a mainstream offering that people were comfortable with. And we kind of got there, but then bigger companies latched on and it became this scary thing then suddenly, you know? And now I think we're starting to try and find our way after all of that. So, I mean, that's like sort of like just a summary of my view of it, right? Without going all into it. But I just feel like there's always going to be work to be done, but we have made great progress. And I think having spaces like Crust and the space I'm thinking of, that Loaves and Witches is the space I'm talking about. It's here in Chicago. Great coffee shop bakery, everybody. Check it out. And so many more that are inclusive and make an effort to be inclusive and make people feel safe and welcome. It's just always happening. You know, people are really making an effort to build those spaces, I think, in a way that they weren't before. And it's lovely to see.
Meagan, what do you think?
I mean, I think there's just like an insurmountable amount of work that needs to be done. I feel grateful for the boom that like being plant-based had on vegan food being more readily available. No matter the reason people wanted to be plant-based, I don't care. It's like the fact that vegan food became more popular is good for our planet and for the animals. So that was great. But now I think in regards especially to like the queer aspect of it and having that space, I think this is where we need so many more allies to step in. I think there needs to be, I think people need to be more called out when bad things happen in kitchen spaces, where someone is disrespected or if like derogatory language is being used or people are just like not being given the space that they deserve as a human. Like, I think people just need to speak up more. And I know that that is like really challenging, and me living in this bubble of Crust where like I get to create the space we have and I get to hold people accountable when things aren't handled correctly is a position of power I feel really grateful to have, because it makes me feel that I can protect what needs to be protected in my own world. But I know it's happening everywhere, and I think more people need to step up and speak up when someone else is being made to feel small and can't speak up for themselves. So We need more of that.
It's very true. Marino?
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a both and situation. I definitely do see there's, more inclusivity, more queer spaces. I work at farmers markets a lot, and a lot more queer vendors are starting to, like, I've noticed, like, be at the forefront of the business. Whereas when I first started, I did not see that really. I was like the only, one I would recognize. So I definitely see that progress. Like everyone's saying though, there's always going to be tons of room for work, inclusivity, especially, the queer thing and all that. But I definitely think, there's this weird rise of carnivore diet raw milk influencer that's sort of like also kind of weird and kind of like messing up the thing, because it's like, I don't know, that's been a little bit weird for me to observe, because that wasn't there when I first started. So it's interesting. There's progress, and then there's this, like, yeah, this backlash stuff, and I'm not really sure what to do with that other than just keep showcasing food in the ways I can, and putting people on that are also doing like queer vegan food and vegan food, and just celebrating it as much as I can and promoting it. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess we all own our own businesses, but I feel like the reason why I pursued my own business is to actually create that bubble that you guys are talking about, a safe space. But there's a lot of people out there who don't have, who are not able to do that, and they work for other restaurants that are probably not a safe space for them. So yeah, no, it's a tough question. But what role do you think chefs and restaurants play in shifting food systems towards sustainability and inclusivity? And Marino, you can go ahead.
I think they play a big role, especially with, like, just different voices, different culinary ethnicities, different cultural foods that are now being showcased more and more. I feel like that's coming through because of the chefs and the people that are pushing that into the space, which is beautiful to see. And, other than that, I really think that, chefs are a kind of important role in, like, the sustainability part of things, kind of like where your food comes from, like you were saying, supply chain, composting, always kind of making sure you're being, aware of, like, every kind of step of the way, like where is this coming from? Can I get this from a local farmer in my community? Can I get, is there a way to, like, just promote more of like composting and just biodegradable things, just things that are for earth, like getting rid of a lot of the plastic stuff is my goal. I try not to use any of it, using sustainable foods as much as I can. Mushrooms come from decay and death, so I believe they're one of the most sustainable things to use right now. Obviously using sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds over like almonds and things that, are more problematic when it comes to farming. And yeah, just being aware and kind of promoting those things as much as you can.
Dustin, how about you?
Yeah, when I think of this, I always think about waste. I think chefs have a big control over waste and how much is being actually used of the product, and how much they can take, whether it's the pulp from something and use that for something else, or just be very conscious of their ordering so they're not over ordering and not wasting, which is a problem I've always dealt with in the past for myself. You don't want to be left without something, but I always think just sort of really trying to keep a tally on that and navigate that is a great way to go about it. And chefs have some control over that. And of course, everything Marino's saying, the sourcing of it is so important, where you're getting it from and where it comes before that, like it's all part of a system, and knowing all the parts of it so that you're making choices that align, hopefully.
Meagan?
I agree with all that, and I'm not gonna just repeat the same stuff, but I'm like, totally, all of that needs to happen. And then I also think a huge part of it is educating our consumer, because to do those things, to buy the more eco-friendly packaging, I look at what it could cost me to get a takeout box that is made from some bleached non-recyclable material, and instead I'm buying the compostable or recyclable product, and the cost is so different. And I think when it comes to buying from local farms versus buying from like Cisco or something, there's going to be a cost difference there. And getting things local, getting things from other small businesses are incurring these costs that are going to increase the cost of what they're selling. And so to a consumer, that like we get reviews every now and again that's like, well, yeah, it's great, but like it's really expensive for what it is. And I am always eager to respond to those kinds of reviews to inform people that the price you're paying is higher because someone else down the line isn't paying the price of being involved in slave labor for picking strawberries, or we're buying that more eco-friendly packaging that means I'm not putting something in a landfill that will not biodegrade for ages and ages and wreck our planet. Like, it's small things we do because we're not huge as a business. Like, we're not Amazon, we're a tiny little bakery in Philly, but like it matters because sending that message to people, I think, can put our consumers more in touch with what the actual cost of a product is versus what they're used to paying. Because what you're going to pay at Acme and their bakery for a cake versus Crust is wildly different, because someone else paid that price down the line so that you could get it cheaper. At Crust, I don't want someone else to pay that price. I want us to just pay what things should cost to be better for the planet, to be better for the people and for the animals. And the more we educate people about that, I think the less sticker shock people will get when they try to patronize businesses that are doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like specifically for vegan food, you know, people who are not vegan might complain that the price is too high, you know what I mean? But they don't understand all the sourcing that goes into it, and the effort and the work and all that. So definitely educating people, yeah, is the way to go with that. But so how do you approach cooking for skeptics or those that are new to vegan food? And Meagan, if you can start off.
Well, first, I'm going to give them whatever I think is the best. I'm like, let's start with whatever's just going to blow their socks off. I think when it comes to pastry, I oftentimes find that when I eat pastries from other places that are vegan, like sometimes there's not enough balance of salt. And I think that's like a wildly underutilized ingredient in baking, which can leave people feeling like, oh, that was just really sweet, and it lacks like as much of a depth of flavor. And so I'm always trying to focus on like, how do we balance this with salt to bring out all the flavors in it, so it's not just like a really sweet treat. And I think that lends itself more to like being comparable to what people are used to with pastries being made with like a salted butter or something. And also making sure that when people come in and they're like skeptical or they've never had our stuff before, like I'm always asking questions. I'm like, what do you like? What don't you like? Are you fruity? Are you chocolatey? Do you like things that are sweeter or are more savory? And like, so I'm trying to also present someone with what it is that they already know they really like, so I can make sure that I'm introducing them to vegan food or to our product in general, to blend well and match well with their actual palate.
A very smart way to go about it. Marino, how about you?
Yeah, pretty much, you know, like kind of similar, like recreating like classics and comfort foods. Like the hot dog idea was kind of like just something to like recreate the things that are, you know, very classic and you would want to, like street foods and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I do it. Things like cheesesteaks, you know, chicken sandwiches, but using mushroom, just things that, you know, you would find at festivals, fairs, and street foods. And I try to like veganize those because I know that those are kind of the most, if you're new to vegan food, that's kind of a good way to do it. Other than that, with like flavors, I like to balance, yeah, like the salty and sweet in certain things. Some of my stuff, we have like a pickled pineapple topping, so it's like sweet and sour type of things. And I'll just kind of guide them. If they're more into savory, then I'll suggest like you know, the bacon cheese dog. And if they're more into kraut and like raw things, I'll suggest like things that are based on like the kraut and pickle style. But we have very experimental dogs, and then we have more, you know, kraut and relish type. So we kind of, you know, like to cater to all the flavors. But initially, I think I get them in with like the comfort food, the nostalgic food, the classics of American food or whatever. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. This is classics reimagined.
exactly. That kind of thing is how I get them in.
Yeah. Dustin, how about you?
Yes, yes, and yes to all of the above. I mean, really, it is trying to play into the enjoyment of food. I have questions I ask, you know, when I'm catering a dinner party or even hosting my own party for friends. You know, do you have any allergies? What are your major likes and what are your major dislikes? So I'm not bringing a dislike to the table because that's
Right.
gonna, regardless of it being vegan, they're just gonna be like, ah, I don't like that thing. And then they might pair that with it being vegan. And I don't want that to happen, you know? So it really is about creating something I know they're going to love, looking at the textures of it all, the flavors of it all things we've kind of talked about already today, but just making sure the end game of it is something delicious, like crave worthy, that they're just going to leave going like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have that again. I hope he'll send me the recipe, that sort of thing, you know, leave them thinking about it ultimately.
Yeah, I love that. So what emerging trends in vegan cooking excites you the most? And how do you see the vegan culinary scene evolving in the next few years? And Dustin, if you can start off.
Sure. I mean, I'm hopeful that, you know, I talked about that magical time, at least to me, I don't know, between like 2015, 2018, where so many people were just creating amazing things. And this all plays off of, you know, the OGs who gave us those tiny cookbooks back in the day that are full of nutritional yeast and, you know, TVP and stuff like that. But like we all kind of took that and we said, okay, how can we elevate that a little bit, right? What can we do with it next? And I kind of just hope that continues with all the work that's been put into the vegan landscape and recipes and foods and even products. I hope it continues. I hope it continues in a way that people are cooking for health, for the environment, for the animals, as opposed to cooking for money, which is the disappointing side where I think plant-based, vegan food, whatever people want to call it, where it has gone in the last several years, people just started seeing dollar signs with it. And I would love for people to start, again, I think we're all doing it here, but people being very rooted in the activism of what vegan food can be and what it's meant to do, which is to create healthier lives, help animals live, and create a better environment. We're all in a space where those things actually do need to happen. It was important back then, it's important now, it's going to be important in the future. And I just really hope that people start aligning themselves with that again in a way that I feel like we were for a while, and then it just sort of exploded in a certain way. I still want it to explode, but for people to get aligned with the beauty and compassion that is behind it all.
Meagan, what do you think?
For me, I feel like when I don't know that I'm like, I have my finger on the pulse of like vegan trends right now, but in general, I feel like I follow a lot of bakeries on the internet, vegan or not, because I just like to see what other people are doing. And I'm definitely seeing a lot more like small batch bakeries that are really focusing on like, how do I make each component of this cake that is like a cake and a filling and a frosting and a topping and a decoration? Like, how do I make each component something really special? So like making even like the butter going into the buttercream, having like a miso cooked into it or something, like figuring out all the ways that we can really amp up the flavor in something by breaking it down into all of these like smaller parts that get all of this like tender love and care to make. And I know that that's not necessarily what's going to be profitable because it's a lot of work that goes into one little thing, but I do think that that can bring in a lot more excitement about food, and it can get people more in touch with like all the different ways. Like I was talking about the fig leaf oil, like how can we use components of produce that otherwise don't get you. I never heard this before. Like, right, you're just picking the leaves off of the plant and then using them when otherwise you wouldn't. Like using like broccoli stalks to like chop them up real fine and put them in a salad, and like adding that nice texture and crunch, and like how can we use more parts, create less waste, and make something delicious that's like more innovative and new that people haven't tried before, which can drive business. Even if it's a more expensive thing to make, it can get people excited to come try your product. So I want to see more of that. I like it because it's also like a focus on the produce and the plants. I agree that all these like big companies that make these really mass produced burgers and hot dogs and stuff, it's like, I get who that's for and what that's for, but it's like such a saturated market that when I want to go to a new city and try a new restaurant, I'm like, vegan community, tell me, where is the place that's serving the best vegetables? Like, I want to taste the produce that's grown in season, and I want to like get all those flavors. I don't just want this burger that is made of mystery ingredients in a factory.
Right. In a
So yeah,
lab,
bringing
basically.
it back to the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Mhm.
want to see continue to grow.
Yeah, amazing. Marino?
Yeah, totally agree with all of that. And I love like, you know, the foraged foods, the growing the mushrooms and then turning it into meat. Like you're pretty much, you know, you could add mycelium to you know, sawdust and basically have this like food and it can keep flushing if you know how to do it. So it's like, you know, that kind of stuff I see as the future in some ways for me. Like pumpkin seeds, you use the pumpkin and you're using the seeds. I love how chickpeas even now with the water is being used to make, you know, all this bakery stuff. So
Yeah.
yes, I love all of that and just keep pushing that forward. And then in terms of like packaged food, because I used to do packaged food, I do kind of look at it still sometimes as like, how is that evolving? And I love like the My Forest Foods, they're doing like mycelium bacon and stuff like that. So like those are kind of really interesting to me, like foods like that. I know the Meaty Foods does mycelial root foods too. I'm not sure if they're still going, but yeah, like those kind of like in terms of like the more mainstream stuff that you see on the shelves, I think that's really interesting. And then yeah, like foraged foods, growing your own and kind of turning it into food, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I think mushroom root, which you're referring to as mycelium, I think that is going to be a big deal for the future of vegan food as well. It's high in protein and you can recreate it to make it taste like beef, you know, or pork, and I can see it taking off in the future. So yeah.
And it's also way more
mhm.
sustainable to grow than
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot of this other stuff. So that's the beauty of it too. And mushrooms
right.
in the soil. So in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, you're healing the earth with the mushroom growth. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I have a last question, which is, what advice would you give to someone interested in pursuing a career as a vegan chef? And Marino, if you can take this.
I would say, yeah, like just follow your passion and don't listen to the noise. And in my early career, I had a lot of like, you know, people like in my ear, just like giving me advice on how I should do this or what I should do. And I was very young at the time and I listened to a lot of it and it just sent me in so many directions. I would just say, stay centered in your truth, in your passion and creativity and just always follow it, kind of block out the advice unless it resonates, you know, and just kind of keep pushing, you know, your creative passion and fire to keep going. Yeah.
I love that. Dustin, how about you?
I will say, you know, I get a question all the time. I'm interested in being a vegan chef. Should I go to culinary school? And I just want to say, like, it's not necessary at all. If there's a vegan restaurant you love, go talk to that vegan restaurant and see if they're willing to start you out and start training you in some areas, because you can learn so much at a restaurant that you can take with you for the rest of your career, truly. Or even, you know, it may not be a restaurant, it may be a vendor who's doing something specific that you really like. Like, find the things that resonate for your passion. You don't necessarily, school costs a lot of money and often it's not worth it. So, like, don't think that you have to do that to pursue this. There's lots of different avenues, there's lots of different niche things within the vegan world that people can do where you can find your place. And the best thing you can do is, you know, if you're all into being vegan and you want to have a career in it, explore it. Find exactly what Marino's saying, like what resonates for you. When you find that passion, like really dig into it. And you know, sometimes it lends itself to creating your own space after a while or whatever it is. But if you just follow that passion, the world opens up to you. I've been in this, you know, I think a decade plus, and I'm so amazed at the people I've had the opportunity to meet and the things I've had the opportunity to do, including being here today, having this conversation. Like, it really is a beautiful world to be a part of. So just follow the passion and find the people who support it and stick with it.
Completely agree with that. Meagan, how about you?
Definitely yes to all that. You don't need to go to culinary school. I think we have 1 out of 17 of us at Crust who went,
Wow.
and we're doing great. I have a kitchen of talented bakers who were pretty much all self-taught. I do think definitely good to get in a kitchen, to get some experience working for someone else before you take off to try and do it yourself. It's a huge endeavor to open your own business. And I am really grateful to have spent the time working in other kitchens first to just like make sure I even wanted to be in that space doing that kind of thing. Also, be prepared to either have a good person that you can call for HVAC stuff or learn something yourself. I'm like, if I could go back in time and go to trade school to learn how to work on refrigeration and ovens and like mixers, I would sign myself up in a heartbeat. So much money goes towards, I need an expert to fix this right now, because if my fridge gets any warmer, I lose all my product. Like, that is such a panic button that we have to push a lot of the time. So I have some good people in my corner now that are on my speed dial, and it's important.
It's amazing. Yeah, as much as I'd love to talk to you all day, unfortunately, we are out of time. So I would like to thank all of our panelists today and everyone for joining us. And I do wish you all a happy Pride. And I will hand it over to Vanessa for closing remarks.
Hey, I'm not sure if Vanessa's on the screen, so I'll
Okay.
take I'll
Yeah.
take this one. Oh, there you are. Go ahead, Vanessa. Sorry about that. Oh, you're on mute.
Of course, I'm on mute. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I mean, I've actually learned quite a bit, so I have a lot of follow-up questions. I'm gonna have to like reach out and learn more. So I really, really am grateful for your time. So please find these folks, support them, pay them, hire them, repost them. If you're traveling around, find them and support their spaces. This is what we're here for, right? It's Pride, the end of Pride Month, but we're queer all year. Like, you know, just because the June is over doesn't mean that our queer bills don't get paid the rest of the 11 months. So for QFF wise, we have a lot of upcoming panels and conversations with JBF coming. We have the country that we'll be doing within the year. So please keep us in mind. It is donation season. So if you want to keep supporting organizations like ours that are trying to offer platforms and feed and fund and elevate our queer food community, please consider us in your donation season and your giving seasons. And thank you again for coming. And I'll leave it to Shamika.
Hi, everyone. I did want to leave with a couple of statements that a few of the panelists made that really kind of resonated with me. One of them was, we're in the business of making good food, not just vegan food. And the other was, it just so happens to be vegan or better for your health. I don't know, that really resonated with me. Just a little personal note. When I follow recipes online, and in my diet at whatever phase. And it was like, it tastes just like, and it never does. And I think what you all said today is it's not supposed to. It has its own unique taste, and it's healthy, and it's better for us. So I just want to thank you all for, I think, your ongoing efforts to move cuisine, a vegan cuisine forward, creating safe spaces through your work with your staff and customers, educating us. I feel like I've learned a lot today, and your sustainable practices. I think those are the things that really resonated with me. So thank you so much. You can find all of our panelists and moderators' contact information on social media here on the screen. Please reach out to them. Please support them, as Vanessa said. And then you can also learn more about our foundations, Queer Food and James Beard, by going to our website or following us on social media. Also, look for this on our website, these recordings, as well as on our resource centers. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Happy Pride!